The grand chamber of the Zerithian palace was impossibly quiet, too quiet. Princess Lysera's golden eyes scanned the room, every step measured, every movement precise. The neural amplifiers embedded in the walls thrummed softly, a reminder that her mind was never truly private here. Then she sensed it. A presence. Someone foreign. Human. Her pulse jumped. Not supposed to be here. Not Draven. Before she could speak, his thoughts hit her like a lightning strike, raw, chaotic, unfiltered. Oh God, she's looking at me. Don't panic. Breathe. Why does her hair shine like that? Lysera's brow arched, a smirk tugging at her lips. Cheeky human, she thought, amusement threading through the telepathic connection. The audacity of this mortal, entering her palace, thinking his thoughts were safe. He stepped forward, hesitant, every movement shouting he didn't belong. I didn't mean to intrude. I'm just looking for the archives. She raised a golden brow, amused. Really? That's what you call an excuse? Draven flinched almost imperceptibly at her gaze. She could feel it. The embarrassment, the curiosity, the racing pulse, the thoughts he hadn't even dared speak. Why does she look at me like that? Is she laughing at me? Oh no, don't look away. Her lips curved into a grin. The human's mind was loud, messy, and entirely too fascinating. And yet, beneath the irritation, something deeper sparked, an unbidden warmth she wasn't supposed to feel in a palace where politics mattered more than heartbeats. Your presence is bold, Lysera finally said aloud, her voice smooth, controlled, but carrying an edge that made Draven flinch. Bold? Try insane, she teased in his mind. And she could feel his thoughts skip like a faulty transmission. She heard that. She knows. Oh no, don't panic. Smile, act normal. Maybe she'll think I'm confident. A klaxon blared suddenly, echoing off the polished walls. The palace's outer gates were under assault, rivals exploiting the chaos of the Emperor's absence. Outside, chaos roared. Inside, the tension between them crackled like live wire. Lysera's hand twitched, fingers brushing the hilt of her plasma blade. But instead of anger, she felt curiosity. Interesting. He thinks he's fragile. Yet here he is, standing in my palace, unarmed but unafraid. Draven swallowed audibly. I didn't mean to disrupt anything. His voice faltered, betraying every thought she had already read. She chuckled softly, a low sound that made him shiver. He's terrified, and adorable, and possibly infuriating. Then another wave of thoughts hit her. Why does she keep looking at me? Is this some telepathic thing? How do I hide my thoughts? I can't. Her grin widened. So fragile, yet reckless. My favorite combination. The klaxon blared again, louder, and guards scrambled through the hallways, their plasma pistols drawn. Lysera's eyes flicked to Draven, and she caught the spark of defiance there, the unwillingness to flee even in the face of danger. Impractical, brave, reckless, and somehow utterly intriguing. Stay behind me, she said finally, her tone sharp but intimate, a single command and an invitation all at once. Draven's breath hitched at the proximity of her voice, the closeness of her presence, the unspoken connection that was already forming through shared danger and stolen thoughts. The first intruder breached the doorway. Lysera's telekinetic energy flared, slamming the figure against the wall. Draven stumbled back, wide-eyed, and she caught his gaze. Did you feel that? She teased silently, and in his mind, he blushed hotter than any human physiology should allow. I did. And I think I like it, his thought blurted out, before he realized she had already heard. A grin tugged at her lips. Yes. I know. The battle was beginning. The human was in her mind, in her space, and yet, she didn't push him away. Not entirely. Because sometimes, chaos revealed the most interesting connections, and she was already addicted to the spark between them. This is going to be complicated. The palace corridors were a labyrinth of polished obsidian and gleaming golden rails, but chaos turned them into a cage. Alarms blared, lights flickered, and somewhere above, the hum of teleportation gates strained against the overload. Princess Lysera led, every step precise, yet her senses stretched beyond sight. Draven stumbled slightly behind her, his human muscles untrained for the speed of her movements. Why is she so fast? And why is she laughing at me? Because you're pathetic, Lysera teased silently, though a faint smile tugged at her lips. Yet amusing enough to keep alive. A squad of intruders rounded the next corner, weapons raised. Lysera's telekinesis flared before Draven could react, sending 3 of them tumbling into the wall. Sparks flew, and one gun discharged into the ceiling. Draven flinched, thinking he'd just died. Relax. They won't kill you, not yet, she said inside his mind, and he nearly jumped at the intimacy of it. You okay? She asked aloud, voice smooth but tense. I think I'm in trouble. And enjoying it, his thought blurted, impossible to hide from her. She rolled her eyes, amused. Stop thinking so loudly. You're betraying yourself. He flushed, cheeks burning. She knows. She knows everything. The alarm was a constant roar now, echoing off the palace walls, but so was the pounding of Draven's heart. His gaze kept flicking to her, golden eyes, glowing faintly in the emergency lights, every motion controlled, confident, deadly. He had never met anyone like her. And now, in the adrenaline of battle, he realized he wanted to impress her. A corridor junction ahead opened into a large atrium, and Lysera's telepathy alerted her, more intruders. But she also sensed Draven's mind, shaky but alert. He's thinking he can't handle this. But he's lying. Interesting. Cover me, she commanded. The words weren't loud, but in his head, they were a promise and a dare. I can do that, he thought back, fists clenching. She smirked faintly. Confidence, finally. Don't screw it up. The first group of attackers poured into the atrium. Lysera's powers were a storm, telekinetic blades whipping, debris slamming enemies into walls. Draven ducked and rolled, catching glimpses of her movements, trying to anticipate the strikes. And somehow, through all the chaos, he could hear her thoughts about him. Careful, reckless, maybe amusing enough to live through this. He gritted his teeth and picked up a fallen blaster, firing blindly, but effectively. A mercenary went down, and Lysera's eyes flicked to him, a flash of approval hidden beneath her controlled expression. Not bad, human. Not bad. He felt heat rise in his chest. She noticed. Another group approached from the side, faster this time. Lysera's mind warned her before the bodies were even in motion. She sent a psychic wave, knocking the attackers off balance. Draven dove to shield her from a stray plasma blast, and the proximity, the brush of his body against hers, made his chest pound. Keep it together, he thought desperately. She'll notice if I lose it. She did. Annoying, she thought teasingly. And I kind of like it. The firefight ended as suddenly as it began. Bodies littered the floor, alarms still screaming, and the corridors were now silent but tense, each breath echoing like a drumbeat. Lysera turned to him, eyes glinting in the emergency lights. You have guts, human, she said softly, but in her mind she added, and you're maddeningly reckless. Don't make me regret letting you survive. Draven exhaled shakily, trying to sound calm aloud. Thanks. I think. She raised an eyebrow. You think? He flushed deeper, realizing she read that thought instantly. And somewhere, amidst the smoke and the alarms and the chaos, a strange bond was cementing. Danger, attraction, and the thrill of surviving together against impossible odds. This is far from over, Lysera thought, a warning, and a promise. Draven swallowed, catching her gaze. I know, and I'm not running. The council chamber was vast, its ceilings curving high above polished obsidian floors, lit by ethereal crystal sconces. Alien delegates murmured amongst themselves, their voices a mix of harsh consonants and melodic undertones. Princess Lysera entered first, her armor replaced with ceremonial robes, sleek, dark, adorned with subtle sigils marking her status. Draven followed closely, his human presence conspicuous but strangely commanding in its own right. Keep your mind clear, Lysera warned him telepathically, the council will test you. Every thought is a weapon. Draven's chest tightened. I'm not a politician. I'm just a medic. Exactly why you're unpredictable, she replied, a teasing edge he could almost feel. Use it. The High Chancellor, a tall, angular figure with crystalline skin shimmering faintly, addressed the assembly. The intrusions have destabilized our borders. And yet, one human survives, and now sits beside our princess. Explain. His gaze flicked to Draven, sharp as a plasma blade. Oh great. I'm being judged, Draven thought desperately. Please don't let me say anything stupid. Lysera's mental hand squeezed his awareness. Calm. Speak honestly but sparingly. They will detect deception immediately. Draven cleared his throat, voice steadying. I only act to preserve life. Not factions, not politics. But survival requires strategy, and sometimes collaboration. A ripple passed through the council. Some eyes narrowed, others flickered with cautious interest. Lysera's lips curved faintly. See? Not as clueless as you think. The discussion turned to territorial claims and resource allocations. Rare, glowing minerals beneath the planet's crust, coveted by every faction. Tension rose like a storm cloud. Lysera's advisors whispered strategy. Her telepathy sifted through each delegate's thoughts. Fear, ambition, hidden agendas. And Draven? His thoughts pulsed beside her, unshielded, raw and startlingly human. They're underestimating us, he admitted silently. Finally, she replied, amusement and approval mingling in her mind. Let's see how clever you can be. A rival delegate, a serpentine alien with shifting skin patterns, hissed aloud. We cannot accept the princess' unilateral decision to engage this human. He is an unknown variable, and variables are dangerous. Lysera leaned forward, eyes glowing faintly. Variables are also unpredictable allies, she said, telepathy threading her voice with subtle influence. And some of us choose to trust the unusual. Draven felt the warmth of her mind brush against his, commanding, protective, teasing. Did she just endorse me telepathically? He straightened, adopting a tone he hoped sounded confident. If you want results instead of delay, sometimes an unexpected perspective is necessary. Lives, resources, and alliances hinge on practical action, not tradition. A murmur went through the chamber. Several delegates stiffened, others nodded slightly. Lysera's telepathy pulsed subtly through the room, steering reactions just enough to buy them leverage. She glanced at Draven silently. Not bad, human. Not bad at all. I'm impressing her? His thoughts betrayed a mix of panic and pride. She chuckled in his mind, a soft, teasing vibration that made his pulse spike. The debate raged on, with threats and posturing flying like plasma fire. Lysera and Draven were an unlikely team, one reading intentions, the other speaking truths that cut through posturing. Slowly, painstakingly, they began to turn the tide, negotiating a compromise. Shared resource access, joint defense pacts, and a fragile agreement that kept both sides tentatively loyal. When the chamber finally recessed, Lysera led Draven out, their hands brushing once, deliberately, a silent acknowledgement of the trust and tension between them. You did well, she said softly, voice low enough that no one could overhear. I had help, he admitted, heart hammering. You didn't fail. That counts for more than you think, she replied, a faint warmth threading her mind into his. Outside, the city stretched in luminous towers, the evening sky streaked with alien auroras. Danger still simmered beneath the surface, and the political minefield they had just navigated was only the beginning. But for a heartbeat, amidst the intrigue and threats, Draven realized something startling. In the storm of war, politics, and telepathy, the bond between them, cheeky, unrelenting, dangerous, was growing stronger. And neither of them could, or would, deny it. The corridors beneath the royal palace were silent, but alive with shadows that twisted and clung to the walls. Lysera's boots made almost no sound as she led Draven through the labyrinthine service tunnels. His human instincts screamed caution. Every whisper of air, every distant echo seemed like a trap. Relax, Lysera teased mentally, sensing his tension before he could suppress it. Or I'll assume you're afraid of ghosts. I'm not afraid of ghosts, just everything else down here, he shot back, rolling his eyes, though he knew she could read his thoughts perfectly. They paused at a junction, peering down two identical corridors. Lysera's eyes flickered faintly, her telepathy scanning ahead, picking out life signs and hidden sensors. 3 guards ahead. Slightly distracted. Perfect timing. Draven crouched beside her, satchel of improvised devices ready. You really want me to throw explosives past 3 guards without them noticing? Not throw. Launch, she corrected, smirk threading through his mind. Precision is key, human. He groaned internally. Precision, yes, but I'd prefer not to die today. Lysera laughed silently in his thoughts, a soft vibration that made his pulse spike. You say that like death hasn't followed us for the past week. They moved with synchronized stealth, shadows weaving around them like protective cloaks. The target was a weapons cache stocked with the rival faction's newest plasma rifles, enough firepower to overwhelm the stronghold if it fell into enemy hands. Lysera signaled him to stop just outside the guard perimeter. Now she whispered, telepathy lacing the command with authority. Draven pulled a device from his satchel, a crude mix of scavenged medical chemicals and ignition circuits. He said it carefully, hands steady despite the adrenaline pumping through him. 1, 2, 3. Ready. Lysera's voice came not aloud but through his mind, a whisper that caressed and challenged simultaneously. He swallowed. Ready, he muttered, though she could hear the tremor. With a flick of her hand, Lysera lifted the first device telekinetically, sending it soaring over the guards. It arced perfectly, landing silently against the weapon's cache. A muted flash, a chemical reaction beginning its slow burn. Nice throw, she teased. For a human. Draven scowled, cheeks warming, not just from the adrenaline. Just keep them distracted. She obliged. Lysra unleashed a controlled telekinetic pulse, sending loose debris clattering across the corridor. Guards spun, weapons drawn, their attention diverted entirely. Draven sprinted forward, planting the rest of the devices, each landing with calculated precision. Last one, he muttered under his breath. Lysra's mental grin was nearly palpable. Finally, you're proving useful. The final device set, they retreated into a shadowed alcove, breaths heavy. Seconds later, the cache erupted in a controlled explosion, fireball and smoke illuminating the tunnels with eerie light. Guards were thrown into confusion. Alarms blared as the rival faction scrambled to contain the chaos. Draven collapsed against the wall, sweat streaking his face. We did it, he gasped. Lysra dropped beside him, chest heaving, hair sticking to her forehead. We did. And you didn't blow yourself up in the process. Don't get cocky, he sent back, though his mind buzzed with exhilaration. Never, she replied, her fingers brushing his briefly. The contact sparked heat he hadn't expected. But admit it, this was fun. Fun is not the word I'd use, but adrenaline, maybe, he admitted. She leaned closer, eyes glinting. Admit it, you like being dangerous. I like surviving dangerous with you, he corrected immediately, heart thundering at the intimacy behind the words. The sound of distant footsteps snapped them back to reality. Lysra rose first, eyes sharp, hand extended. Move. We're not finished yet. The council will want answers before sunrise. Draven took her hand, allowing her to pull him up, the spark of touch lingering longer than necessary. Together, they melted into the shadows, a perfect mix of cheeky banter, telepathic trust, and lethal efficiency. Above them, the city slept under alien skies. Below, the rival faction scrambled in chaos. Between the two of them, the unspoken bond had strengthened, one forged through fire, danger, and mutual defiance. But the night was far from over. Danger still prowled the palace halls, and with every shared glance and telepathic tease, Draven and Lysra realized one undeniable truth. They were unstoppable together, and dangerously drawn to each other. The council chamber smelled of polished metal and tension, the soft hum of energy conduits filling the high-ceilinged room. Lysra and Draven entered side by side, their hands brushing just enough to set a current running through him that he didn't bother hiding. Careful, she warned mentally, reading his wandering thoughts. Eyes everywhere. I was just noticing the decorations, he countered, though she caught the blush he couldn't hide. Murmurs rippled across the gathered alien dignitaries. Some eyed him with suspicion, others with curiosity. Draven, a human among the galaxy's political elite, felt exposed, yet the cheeky spark Lysra kept sending his way steadied him. The warlord cleared his throat, signaling the beginning of the session. The rival factions are contained, but the council requires explanations for the breach at the depot. Full accountability is expected. Lysra stepped forward, her posture regal, yet her eyes flicked to Draven with a teasing glimmer. Your turn to talk, human. Draven swallowed, heart hammering, not from fear, but from the thrill that the whole galaxy was watching him through skeptical eyes. The depot attack was necessary, he said, voice firm, though his mind screamed to add a wink and a grin. They underestimated our coordination, and my human ingenuity. Human arrogance, Lysra murmured, amusement threading through his mind. And you like it, he shot back silently, earning a mental chuckle from her. Before the council could interject, alarms blared. The chamber's floor trembled, a subtle, almost imperceptible vibration that immediately sent Lysra into protective mode. Trap. Draven's stomach dropped. Trap? He hissed mentally, scanning with a mix of human intuition and ad hoc tactical knowledge. Yes. They've manipulated the council's energy matrix. If it overloads, everyone here could be incapacitated. He barely had time to react before the first pulse hit. Sparks arced from the ceiling, energy tendrils whipping toward the council members. Lysra moved like liquid, telekinetically shielding them, sending Draven sliding behind her for cover. Stick close, she urged, every word slicing through his thoughts with sharp command. I was planning on it anyway, he sent back, though his pulse spiked at the proximity, the closeness of her aura, the warmth radiating from her touch as she adjusted a floating barrier between them and the energy blasts. They moved as a single unit, her telekinesis guiding and amplifying his quick, improvisational actions. Draven set up crude energy-dispersing devices with hands that shook just enough to make it thrilling, while Lysra kept pulses from burning through the chamber's walls. Sparks and smoke twisted around them, painting the room in flashes of blue and orange. Almost there, she breathed, sensing his thoughts clinging to hers like a lifeline. He grinned despite the chaos. "Next time we do this for fun, right?" "Next time," she replied, a smirk passing through her telepathy as she launched the final pulse to neutralize the trap. The energy subsided, leaving scorched but intact floors and council members shaken but alive. The chamber fell silent. Every eye turned toward them, and for a moment, Draven felt naked under the scrutiny, not as a human, but as someone who had just survived a trap orchestrated by cunning alien minds. Lysra's fingers brushed his hand, subtle but deliberate. "See? Dangerous together." "Yeah, dangerously perfect," he sent back, smirk matching hers. The warlord finally spoke, voice heavy with approval. "You acted decisively. That was impressive." Draven gave a small bow, trying not to let the adrenaline, and the way Lysra's gaze pinned him, make him flustered. As they exited the chamber, Lysra whispered, just loud enough for him to catch, "You're infuriating, human. And I wouldn't have it any other way." "Neither would I," he replied silently, already feeling the pull of the next danger, the next challenge, the next moment with her. Outside, the alien skies were calm, but Draven knew better. In the galaxy's political games, calm was the most dangerous illusion of all. And with Lysra by his side, he was ready to play, cheeky, reckless, and completely enthralled. The palace corridors were quiet, deceptively so. Draven's footsteps echoed against polished floors, each tap a reminder that they were exposed. Lysra floated slightly ahead, her senses scanning, every whisper of thought brushing against her like fine silk. "Something's off," she warned mentally, her gaze flicking to the ornate walls. The council chamber trap wasn't random. "Someone here wants us isolated." Draven's pulse spiked. "You mean another ambush?" "Exactly." She shot him a look that was equal parts warning and teasing. "Try to stay alive, human. I'm growing fond of you." Ooh. He sent back silently, smirking despite the tension. "Careful, you'll make me blush." She ignored him, eyes narrowing, telekinetic energy tingling around her fingertips. The corridors were lined with statues and tapestries that hid sensors, and she traced the subtle heat signatures, imperceptible to the untrained eye, of cloaked intruders. Suddenly, a whisper of movement, a shadow slipping from the ceiling vents, caught her attention. "Here they come." Before Draven could react, the first attacker dropped from above, a sleek armored figure wielding twin plasma blades. Lysra's barrier flared, deflecting the strike, but the impact sent sparks scattering across the floor. Draven dove to the side, narrowly avoiding a lethal swipe. "We're cornered," he thought, but his mind buzzed with exhilaration rather than fear. "And you like it?" "I do," she replied mentally, a flicker of amusement breaking through the tension. "But survive first." They moved as a single entity, Lysra's telekinesis bending the air, lifting loose weapons, debris, even parts of the ornate tapestries, hurling them at incoming attackers with precision. Draven improvised, tossing heavy ornamental vases, sliding behind columns, and creating distractions with quick, human ingenuity. One intruder lunged at him directly. Draven sidestepped and grabbed a ceremonial spear from the wall, spinning it to knock the attacker off balance. Lysra shot a glare that could have burned through steel. "Not bad for a fragile human." "Fragile?" He sent back cheekily. "I think you mean dangerously handsome." The attack was relentless. Shadows multiplied in the dimly lit hallways, their movements synchronized, suggesting inside knowledge of the palace layout. But Lysra and Draven's bond had deepened with the fires of previous battles. They instinctively covered each other's blind spots, his unpredictable improvisation perfectly complementing her controlled, devastating power. A particularly large assailant leapt from the shadows, aiming directly at Lysra. Draven threw himself in front, using his body to shield her. Pain flared in his shoulder, but he caught the attacker in a choke hold. Lysra's eyes widened, not in fear, but in something softer, something intimate. "You fool," she whispered mentally, "you'll make me fall for you completely." "Already did," he replied, wincing as he twisted free of the assailant. "And I'm counting on it." They pressed forward, driving the attackers back through a whirlwind of telekinesis and human cunning. Finally, with a coordinated push, the last intruder was thrown out into the open courtyard, disappearing into the night. Breathing heavily, Draven and Lysra leaned against a cold marble wall, sweat and adrenaline mixing. Their hands brushed, lingering. "You're reckless," she said, voice low but tinged with warmth. "So are you," he countered, lips twitching into a grin. "Guess we're perfect together." "Perfect until the next trap," she muttered, her eyes scanning the shadows again. Draven felt the thrill of danger, but more importantly, the bond cementing between them, one forged through conflict, attraction, and the silent electricity of shared thoughts. Outside, the alien sky was calm, but Draven knew better. Calm was the illusion that preceded chaos, and with Lysra by his side, he was ready to face it, cheeky, fearless. The council chamber was silent, but the tension was thicker than any plasma shield. Draven's boots clicked on the polished floor as he followed Lysra inside, ceremonial robes swaying with her every step. Every mind in the room radiated caution, and something darker, a hidden agenda. Careful, Lysra's voice brushed his thoughts, sharp and controlled. Not everyone here wants peace. Draven's pulse spiked. You mean betrayal? Exactly. She sent him a glance, the barest hint of a grin. You humans are so honest. I like that, but it makes you vulnerable. Vulnerable? He replied cheekily, letting his eyes roam over her elegant posture. I like that you like that. Her telepathic senses flared as she scanned the council members. They're hiding more than thoughts. Intent, lies, and weapons. Look sharp. Before Draven could react, the chamber doors slammed shut. The counselors rose in unison, plasma daggers appearing in their hands. Lysra's eyes widened in brief shock before narrowing. Ambush. Draven caught it immediately. And I thought your palace was safe. He ducked instinctively as a plasma blade sliced past, searing the floor where he had stood a heartbeat earlier. Lysra extended her hands, lifting heavy furniture and shattered panels with a flick of her fingers, creating a telekinetic barrier around them. Sparks danced off the protective field, illuminating her flushed face and fierce eyes. You're reckless, she hissed, though her thoughts betrayed a flicker of admiration. So are you, he countered silently, sliding a broken chair to knock an attacker off balance. We're perfect together. The fight escalated. Draven's improvisation kept attackers off guard, while Lysra's psychic control bent reality around them, tossing foes into walls and across the room like ragdolls. But one counselor, a veteran exuding deadly precision, targeted Draven specifically, reading his every micro-expression, anticipating his moves. Lysra sensed it before he did. Focus, he's reading you. Don't let him predict you. Draven grinned through the tension. Guess I'll have to think dirtier thoughts, then. Lysra's cheeks flushed a deeper hue. You stop that. Stop what? He teased mentally, ducking a blade swing. It's working. The veteran counselor lunged again, and Draven pivoted, catching the attacker in a brutal lock. Lysra's barrier surged, propelling two more foes against the walls. The room was chaos, a storm of telekinetic power and human improvisation, but one misstep could mean death. Draven faltered as a hidden trap triggered. The floor beneath them hissed, releasing a plasma net. Lysra's hands darted out instinctively, bending the metal strands before they could ensnare him, but her concentration wavered, sweat streaming down her face. I can't hold this much longer, she admitted through thought, voice tinged with strain. Then I'll do the heavy lifting, he sent back, pushing her behind him as he smashed through a weakened section of the trap with sheer brute force. Her hand found his shoulder instinctively, and for a brief, electric moment, their connection went beyond battle, into something intimate, unspoken, charged. Finally, the chamber fell silent, the counselors incapacitated, disarmed, or fleeing. Lysra dropped to the floor, trembling from the exertion. Draven crouched beside her, brushing a stray lock of hair from her sweat-slicked face. You okay? He asked, voice low. I am now, she whispered, a hint of vulnerability slipping past her usual composure. Because of you. Always, he said, lips curling in a grin that didn't quite mask his own exhaustion. Even when you make me think dirty thoughts at the worst possible times. She slapped his arm lightly, eyes rolling but warm. You're impossible. And you love it, he replied, smirking. They stayed pressed close for a moment, the air between them charged with danger, relief, and the undeniable pull of something more than strategy or survival. Outside, the alien sky burned with the colors of war and politics, but inside the chamber, for just a heartbeat, it was theirs. Next time, Lysra said, regaining composure, try to survive without making me blush this much. No promises, he murmured, eyes glinting. But I'll try. The sky above the royal city was a storm of crimson and violet, lightning arcing through the alien clouds like knives. Draven and Lysra crouched atop the apex spire, the wind whipping around them as alarms blared below. Every sensor in the palace screamed invasion. They've brought everything, Lysra's thoughts buzzed in his mind, tense, sharp. The rival factions, siege engines, drones, mercenaries, they want to crush us completely. Draven's jaw tightened. Then we won't give them the chance. Her eyes flared, scanning the battlefield with her psychic senses. You ready for chaos? Always, he replied with a grin, pulling his satchel close. But this time we do it together. Below, the first wave of siege engines rumbled forward, massive, armored, deadly. Lysra extended her hands, her telekinetic aura shimmering like liquid metal. Rocks, debris, even ornamental spires lifted into the air, spinning like a whirling fortress around them. Draven, aim for their ammo storage, she sent mentally, her voice strained from exertion. I'll launch it. Timing is everything. He unpacked his improvised incendiaries, crude but lethal. Consider it done. Lysra's grin was fierce, almost predatory. You humans are insane. And you love it, he teased, though his heart pounded as he lit the first fuse. They launched the devices in perfect sync, Lysra hurling objects with telekinetic force, Draven placing explosives and retreating in tandem. The explosions cascaded down the enemy lines, a fiery storm that shredded engines, scattered troops, and fractured their formations. Even in the chaos, Lysra's thoughts touched his, playful and intimate. You think about me, every second, don't you? Draven's smirk turned into a laugh, adrenaline sharp in his chest. Only when you're dangerously close to dying. She flushed, sweat-slicked hair clinging to her temples, but didn't miss a beat. Her hands moved faster, bending energy shields, hurling debris like deadly arrows. Draven covered her flank, disarming drones and mercenaries, improvising traps with everything he could find. A massive siege walker approached, its weapons trained on the spire. Lysra froze for a fraction of a second. Too big, too fast. Then we go bigger. Draven grabbed a heavy support beam and rigged it with explosives, his hands steady despite the chaos. Telekinetic toss, princess. Her eyes widened as she lifted it, guiding it with effortless grace. The beam arced through the storm, striking the siege walker's core. The resulting explosion sent shockwaves through the battlefield, metal tearing, fire roaring. Soldiers on both sides scrambled, but the rival faction faltered, their momentum shattered. The wind carried smoke and ash around them. Lysra's shoulders heaved, her breath ragged. Draven stepped close, brushing a hand against her arm, grounding her. We did it, he whispered. No, we did it together, she corrected, a small, exhausted smile tugging at her lips. Her hands found his, fingers intertwining, and for the first time in hours, the chaos felt distant. Below, the surviving enemy forces scattered, retreating under the weight of their losses. The palace bells rang, a signal of victory and survival, but neither of them moved immediately. They stayed at the apex, holding onto each other, the city burning behind them, yet alive. Lysra leaned into him, telepathy softening into intimacy. You're more than I expected, Draven. Not just human, not just reckless, you're dangerous? He interrupted lightly, smirking. Infuriatingly perfect, she finished, her blush deepening, but her eyes were fierce with honesty. Draven laughed softly, brushing his lips against hers, tentative at first, then deep, a release of every fear and adrenaline-fueled heartbeat. And you are my impossible princess. They pulled back, faces inches apart, breathing in the shared moment of survival and connection. Around them, the palace was still a battlefield, but for the first time, hope gleamed brighter than danger. We rebuild, Draven murmured, his thumb tracing hers. Together. Lysra nodded, letting her head rest against his shoulder. Together. Far below, alien and human forces worked side by side, clearing debris, tending wounds, and witnessing the dawn of something new. The war was over, not completely, not perfectly, but the bond forged in blood, fire, and shared danger promised a future neither empire could have predicted. And atop the apex spire, the human and the alien princess remained, cheeky, unbroken, and utterly bound to each other, ready to face whatever the galaxy dared throw at them next.